Welcome to another edition of Boxing Info. I'm your host, The Islander, and this is the results show week ending September the 18th. I want to cover, I'm going to try to do this in 15 minutes because one of the things I'm looking at, and it's kind of, I wouldn't say perturbing, but kind of making me feel real quizzical about it, not understanding, is that for some reason my subscribership spiked. You know, I was happy where it was in the 1200s, and all of a sudden, you know, it's up to 1400 and something, and yet the viewership of videos is going down. And I think that's a product of the videos being too long for a person to sit and watch, whether they're doing it at work or whatever. So I'm not going to belabor anything because we do have a lot to cover. All right, last week's fights: Gamboa, technical decision, eight round decision over Daniel Ponce-de-Leon. By far, in my opinion, Gamboa's best fight to record, just on the fact that Ponce-de-Leon brought serious danger and the power in his left hand, and Gamboa dominated every moment of this fight. It showed that his Olympic pedigree, his amateur background, all of it, when put to good use and put to a disciplined approach, is going to be a force to reckon with. I thought this was probably the most comprehensive performance of his career, and one of the more promising as far as, you know, let me ask you this, one of the questions of the week, the audience. What chance do you give Chris John against Gamboa when he fights like he fought? I mean, I don't give him much of a chance, to be honest with you. No matter where in the world a fight is fought, I think when you blend speed and power like he has, there's just no stopping it. In some ways, it almost reminded me of Sugar Ray Leonard when he was in his prime. I'm talking like, you know, fighting the guys like Larry Bonds and fighting guys like Bruce Finch and, you know, Duran the second time, that the speed and power combination is just almost breathless to behold. I'm not on this guy's bandwagon because, again, he does have defensive flaws. He just hit him real well against a guy who's slow of foot and slow of hand. But he won every second of this fight, and congratulations to him. That was just a great performance. Now, the other fight that we had previewed, which was Vitaly Klitschko taking on Tomas Adamek. You know, much to my surprise, in the very opening moments of this fight, I knew it wasn't going to go right. I knew it wasn't even going to be competitive because what Vitaly, I'm going to call him Vitaly. I don't care if his name is Vitaly. It looks like Vitaly to me. I know a lot of people with the last name is the same as his first name, and they pronounce it Vitaly. What Vitaly Klitschko did was he shortened his punches and he kept them inside his shoulders, which a lot of heavyweights have a lot of trouble doing. So everything was down the avenue like this. And the thing about that is that it became brutally apparent that no matter what speed Adamek brought up to heavyweight, it was already nullified in the first, 10 seconds of the fight. And I'll say this: Adamek should be commended for, one, taking the fight, and two, trying as hard as he did throughout the fight, because he got sledgehammered. I thought the fight could have been stopped anywhere from the 6th round on, basically, because you come to the point where you have to ask yourself, does the guy have a legitimate chance of winning on the scorecards? Answer is no. Does the guy have a legitimate chance of winning by just a freak one-punch knockout? And the answer was no. He could hit Vitaly Klitschko while his back was turned, and it wasn't going to change the fight. But I do commend Tomas Adamek for taking this fight, for drawing the crowd that they drew, and for Vitaly Klitschko. This was one of his better-looking performances. And like I said in the preview show, I thought this fight would go along the same lines as the Cristobal Arreola fight. The only problem is that Adamek couldn't make as much contact on Klitschko that Arreola did. But, look, I'm not going to fault either one of those two guys. They got their shot at the title, and they took, they tried 100%. And that's all I ask for. Somebody on my channel, I think it was Metal, asked about the purses and wanted to find out where the purses were and whether these fighters would basically measure the beating they would get from the Klitschkos with the purse and just maybe lay low. Well, the answer to that question is, what do you think Alexander Povetkin's been doing? They're waiting for him and Teddy Atlas are waiting for the Klitschkos to go away. It's simple. They've turned down a career high payday of like $2 million and a mandatory defense with Vladimir Klitschko because they're playing a waiting game. And I don't blame them. I'm not going to blame them because, who wants to, have an irreversible beating put on you? The thing is, news that I've read recently and a couple of you have picked out is that Vladimir Klitschko is looking to fight one more time this year, maybe against Jean-Marc Mormec. I'm thinking to myself, why? What does Mormec bring? Klitschko fighting O'Neal Bell is more intriguing than fighting Joe-Mark Mormack, because I don't believe Mormack couldn't beat David Haye and really was nip and tuck with O'Neal Bell. So my thinking is, and I know O'Neal Bell was stopped by Adamek. You know, I heard they were talking about trying to get a fight together with Cristobal Arreola, and I guess that must have fallen through the cracks. So, you know, we'll just let it ride. It'll be over in Germany. Nobody will pay attention to it, or very few people will pay attention to it. And that's that for these fights. All right, the schedule this weekend, which is very intriguing. And let me read something from the Associated Press, because a lot of you got upset, especially Lane 99, with my take on the Arturo Gatti situation. I'm going to read you word for word a story from the Associated Press. This article is called "Prenup Left Arturo Gatti's Wife Nothing." That's the title. I'm not making this up. I'm going to read to you word for word what this is. All right, Associated Press out of Montreal, Canada. I know you're going to say that's where Gatti's from, so they'd be biased. It's factual. Listen to this. A prenuptial agreement would have left boxer Arturo Gatti's wife nothing, not even alimony, in the case of a divorce. This is important. A court heard Thursday that Gatti had insisted on a prenuptial agreement. He later tore up a copy of the agreement in a demonstration of love for his wife, but the original document was still valid. Okay? Gatti's widow, Amanda Rodriguez, is in a court battle with the late boxer's family over his estate. Gatti's family doesn't believe Brazilian authorities' conclusion that he committed suicide, which wasn't their first knee-jerk reaction either. They held this woman in custody for about 12 days. The court heard that 1 week after Gatti tore up a copy of the prenuptial agreement, listen, this is very important, he contacted his law firm to ensure the original copy was still intact. A Secretariat lawyer, John Lynch, not to be confused with Pat Lynch, his manager, John Lynch, an attorney. A Secretariat lawyer, John Lynch's firm, testified that Gatti called and asked that a copy of the contract be sent to a Montreal lawyer he consulted for a divorce from Rodriguez in May of 2009. Keep all these facts. This is factually based information, people. I'm not making this up. Nobody's making this up. Keep this in the forefront of your mind. Okay, he wants to make sure the valid copy is in the hands of a law firm in Montreal in May of 2009. Okay, here's the last paragraph. The couple took a vacation together, and the 37-year-old Gatti was found dead at a Brazilian seaside resort in July of 2009. So within 60 days of him making sure that that paper was still valid with his attorneys, he's found dead. Okay, I'm not going to speculate any more on this. Those are facts, and we're just going to leave it at that. Now let's get on to the fights, the preview this week, as we're already at 8 minutes into this video. El Paso, Texas on September... Actually, this just passed. I should be redoing the... what do you call it? Alright, we'll just skip over that. It was on ESPN Deportes, and I'll find out about it and let you know next week about Johnny Gonzalez and Rogers Matagua, because I didn't watch it. Antonio Escalante was taking on Pepino Cuevas Jr. Also on that card, but I didn't preview it. So September 16th, 17th. Here we go. I just want to look down here and make sure that we've got everything covered. Split card HBO pay-per-view in Los Angeles. Saul Canelo Alvarez taking on Alfonso Gomez. 12 rounds for Alvarez's WBC junior middleweight title. Alright, let me break this down real quick. I saw them standing next to each other, and Gomez has a slight size advantage. Here's the problem. Canelo has a bigger reflex advantage, and that's this theme with the reflexes is going to come forward with the other fight. I'm expecting Gomez to give Canelo some sort of test. I don't think Gomez has the firepower, the speed, or the reflexes to offset Alvarez. The fight could be nip and tuck. I expect Alvarez to win the fight comfortably. Okay, it's just he has not been through the meat grinder of Miguel Cotto like Gomez has, and the wear and tear on Gomez's body with the Contender Series and all that other stuff. So I'm going with Alvarez either by a middle to late round stoppage or a comfortable decision. And we'll just leave it at that. There's not much more to say about this. It should be a high contact fight. It should be entertaining as it goes on. And I expect Alvarez to come away with a, a comfortable decision or a mid to late round stoppage. Understand that Gomez is a live underdog in this fight in my mind, but I just don't think he's got the firepower to get the job done or the boxing ability to totally offset Alvarez. That's just my thoughts on this and analyzing this. All right. In Las Vegas, the main reason for the pay-per-view card, Eric Morales was to have fought Walter Matthijs. Not Walter Matthijs, the other Matthijs. I'm sorry. Check that. Scratch it. The Matthijs that just fought Zab Judah and also fought, he's been in the mix at the junior welterweight, Devin Alexander. Okay. He had an injury, pulled out of the fight. They offered this fight to Marcos Maidana. Maidana said, I'm already set up to fight another guy in Argentina. I'd have to change my training. I can't change it. And besides the fact, I'm not saying he's not afraid to fight Morales, but let's be clear. Morales is the only guy I've ever seen hurt Maidana with headshots like he was hurt in that fight. Not even Amir Khan did it. So they're going to fight again someday is what Maidana said, just not on this card. Morales is fighting Pablo Cesar Cano for the, this is ridiculous, for the vacant WBC junior welterweight super lightweight title so that they can kind of fudge Morales into the he's the only Mexican to win titles in 4 different weight divisions. Blah, 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 blah. Okay. Either way, Morales is going to win probably going to win the fight. He's settled into this weight division very nicely. I've heard his name being bandied around for a fight with Amir Khan, although I think Amir Khan is looking for another fight against one of the Peterson brothers, against Lamont Peterson. I'm expecting Morales to win this fight and probably win it comfortably also. Alright, the main event, and this is what I'm going to spend most of the time talking about in another 3 minutes. Victor Ortiz against Floyd Mayweather Jr. The fight, when it was made, I told you was intriguing. I'm interested in it. And I'll tell you why. Here's the deal. If you look at Floyd Mayweather's last 4 fights, Shane Mosley, Juan Manuel Marquez, Ricky Hatton, Oscar De La Hoya. All 4 of those guys have speed and reflex issues. Not speed of hand, because Mosley's quick, so is De La Hoya, but age and reflex issues. Okay? One of the things that Mayweather gets by on is his remarkable, unparalleled reflexes and his ability to see a situation coming before it even unfolds and counter it before it even unfolds itself. Okay. Against Mosley, he got caught, but basically dominated the whole fight. Against Marquez, Marquez couldn't hurt him. Marquez couldn't react fast enough to him. Marquez couldn't reach him. Against Hatton, basically he stood his ground admirably, let Hatton shoot his wad, and then basically started taking Hatton apart in the 7th and 8th rounds of that fight before doing away with him in the 10th. Against De La Hoya, again, he stood his ground, saw what De La Hoya had to offer, and then basically just pop-shotted him the rest of the way to win a decision. Alright, why is this fight different than any of those 4 fights? Because the guy he's fighting, in Victor Ortiz, has fresh legs, fresh reflexes, and as I've said before, and I'll say this again, what happens to a veteran fight, all fighters, as they learn their trade, especially when you're Victor Ortiz's age and Saul Canelo Alvarez's age, you see an opening, you dive headfirst through it, quickly. If there's an opening for right hand, you pour it in, and just you don't even think about what the ramifications are of being countered. You don't think. You see a window, you dive through it. The window of opportunity is what I'm talking about. As fighters age, and I saw this very, very painfully with Roberto Duran, with Sugar Ray Leonard, and more recently with Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. I can see the openings in the other guy's game. I know they can see it, but as veterans, with their reflexes starting to slow, with age setting in on them, with them being just a half a step slower, even Roy Jones, this more recently this has happened to, the openings are there. They know if they dive through that window, there's a chance they're going to get countered, and countered hard. So they don't take chances that they would have taken earlier in their career. Victor Ortiz is in that scenario where if the window of opportunity presents itself, he dives through head first. This is important because Mayweather hasn't fought somebody like this since he fought Hatton. The difference between Ortiz and Hatton is a lot better speed, a lot better reflexes, and a lot better one-punch power. So, what can we expect to see in this fight? One, I see Mayweather barely slowing up. Not a lot, but just subtle things that have happened in his past fights that show me he's slowing up. One, he doesn't use his legs as much anymore because I don't think he can. He is still the best defensive fighter in the world. I'm just calling it like I see it. He can still defend and counter better than anybody else in the world. Let's be clear about that. But his legs aren't what they used to be. He's not fighting the Jose Luis Castillo rematch fight ever again. Father Time has caught up. Okay, let's be clear and be honest about that. Now, what will this fight look like? What do I think is going to happen in this fight? There are going to be contentious moments, but, and this is a big but, Mayweather's going to win this fight in the end. And I'll tell you why. The fight is going to look like one of two fights that I've seen recently. Okay? If Victor Ortiz has a real chance of winning this fight and performs to the utmost level and Mayweather has slipped a tiny bit, the fight will very much resemble Roy Jones Jr.'s first fight with Antonio Tarver, where most people thought Tarver did enough to win. Jones turned on at the end and pulled out a very close decision. Alright, that's my thought. That's Victor Ortiz's best chance in my mind. That it will look like Jones and Tarver. A lot of you are going to say Jones and Mayweather are totally different fighters, this and that. Listen, yes and no. Jones was way more dangerous a fighter than Mayweather was. Mayweather was better defensively, and I don't know about athletically. Going forward, what I think is going to happen is, a more likely scenario is that the fight will resemble Mayweather versus Zab Judah, where there are contentious moments early on. Mayweather may even get stunned or hurt a little bit, but as the fight gets to the halfway point, he's pulling away and basically winning the fight by a wide margin. For Ortiz to win, there's only one other scenario in my mind that I've seen, and then most of you old-timers like Above Beneath and some, maybe even Avellino, maybe somebody else has even seen this. The fight that would allow a blueprint or a similar scenario of a very dominant champion, a pound-for-pound top-tier champion, to lose his title to an up-and-comer, you have to rewind all the way back to 1984. Because when I turned on the TV one Saturday afternoon and I watched Jolton Jeff Chandler, the WBA bantamweight champion, step in the ring with Richie Sandoval, who had basically made his up-and-coming career on ESPN fighting a bunch of retread fighters, there was no way on God's green earth that Richie Sandoval was going to win that fight. Not only did he win that fight, he dominated that fight with a game plan. I doubt, seriously, that Victor Ortiz is going to score a one-punch knockout over Mayweather. He's going to have to basically belabor him from start to finish. And that's going to do it for this episode. I'm going to be back with the results show. Keep watching the other videos. I'll be trying to upload some more in the near future. Thanks.